Hey guys, I'm an OK Gamer Girl, and welcome to OK to Play, where I review games through a mental health lens and point out different things that might impact your gaming experience, or things that may have prevented you from trying a game out. As a long-time member of the Mental Illness Club, I always ask myself certain questions before I get into a game to make sure my brain will be happy with it. I'm only going to focus on my own experiences with mental health, but feel free to jump in with your own experiences in the comments. I hope you find this different approach helpful if you choose to play any of these games. An isometric, roguelike, procedurally generated dungeon crawler, Curse of the Dead Gods is a dark but fun game with added challenge in the shape of curses and damage increase or decrease based on light and darkness. Weapons are picked up from enemies and chests, gold is collected, and points are assigned to attributes with every new run. It's available on PC, Nintendo Switch, PS4, Xbox One, and through Game Pass. This is a roguelike, which to many will be frustrating as you'll need to restart quite a few times before you're able to progress far. There is also an emphasis on light and darkness, meaning the different dungeon areas will be pitch black, and you'll only have a torch to light the way. There are braziers to light, but some may find the darkness uncomfortable. There aren't too many other triggers I could find, but some of the random curses gained might be unsettling to some, but not to any extreme. I found my first playthrough was interesting, and I have played some roguelikes in the past, but this had extra mechanics that set it apart. The first is the light and darkness aspect, with your attack damage being increased when the room is lit, and damage taken increased when you're in darkness. Another was the curses you can gain once the curse meter is full. You find yourself being careful what choices you make, in order to avoid filling up the meter too much. The curse meter fills when you do certain actions, such as fighting in the dark, or using blood offerings to heal or gain items. And once it's full, you get a random curse that gives you a little more challenge in the upcoming rooms. Each curse is random, and there are so many you could get. Traps being activated automatically. Taking damage causes hallucinations. Defeating enemies restores health. Health drops over time until your health meter reaches 1 point, or you lose the same amount of health as you do gold when you're attacked. There are altars where you can offer blood or gold for gifts or favours, which can help in your run, but these will reset once you restart your next run. Greed kills are combo timers, which increase the amount of gold you'll get from defeating enemies, as long as you defeat them within the time limit. The map gives you choices of which route you want to take through a dungeon, with some rooms containing loot or healing, and others containing challenges. The end goal is to beat the boss of the dungeon, the difficulty of which will be decided on which curses you've collected during your run. Once you get defeated, which you will many times, you're sent to the underworld where you can assign attribute points to give you an edge in the next run. There are crystal skulls and jade rings you can collect in the dungeons, which you can use towards upgrades and attributes. These are permanent, making you stronger and more likely to progress in future runs. As with any roguelike game, you start and restart often while trying to get more attributes and upgrades in order to get further than you did last run. This can make the game feel repetitive and slow, but the procedurally generated dungeons help to make each level different. There's a certain frustration at the start of the game where you feel weak and overwhelmed by enemies, but after a few restarts you find yourself getting a little further each time. There isn't much in the way of story, as you're working through levels in order to beat the end of dungeon boss. The challenge is getting through each level and moving on to the next dungeon, while collecting loot, weapons, gold, and upgrading your skills and attributes. This isn't a daydream kind of game, but it's not a hardcore tactical one either. You do have to pay attention to the rooms and enemies, balancing your health and curse meters, picking up loot and comparing new weapons. The game, however, doesn't take much in the way of effort, as you can pick up and play one dungeon and then put it down again. Each run takes as long as you can survive, rather than a fixed time, which at the start can be only a few minutes. There are many different weapons to pick up and use, and you have a primary and secondary. Each weapon has its own special attacks to learn, but nothing too complicated. Curse of the Dead Gods is fairly relaxing in the sense of action being small bursts of enemy interactions and being able to choose which route to follow. It ramps up once you get to the boss, but it doesn't make you suddenly leap from your seat. If you take it slow and plan your way, and don't get too frustrated by having to restart, it can be gentle with moments of action. This is fairly straightforward, as you have attack and dodge buttons, as well as using special attacks on both weapons. You learn about curses and other mechanics slowly as you progress, and even the attributes and upgrade screens, as complex as it looks, is actually understandable. The biggest learning curve is finding out how capable you are and how far you can get in each level, which will become second nature as you get stronger. As I said before, roguelikes can be a frustrating genre to play due to restarting over and over. Some will find this boring, and some will feel the progression. The best part of having to restart is the procedurally generated dungeons, which make each run unique. Changing up which route you follow is also a nice touch, as you can avoid or engage with enemies as much as you want. The enemies and bosses feel hard at first, and you'll find yourself getting them to the last tiny bit of health, then they defeat you and it's back to the start. This can feel like a challenge to some and a pointless endeavour to others, but that's the nature of the beast. For me, after the 5th or 6th restart, I felt I was running into a brick wall, no matter how much I upgraded or spent gold. This doesn't mean it'll be the same for everyone, I'm just not a fan of roguelikes. Curse of the Dead Gods is a great little game if you enjoy the genre. It has its own unique curse system and enough variety to keep the game interesting. It's not too challenging nor too easy, and the graphics and animation are really well done. You can put as much or as little time into it as you want, and you'll never play the same level twice. So if roguelike dungeon crawlers are your thing, I would say this game is okay to play.